Hello, I'm Dr. R.D. Khare, Pediatrician from Mumbai. Today we will revise our knowledge about goiter. Goiter is a swelling of thyroid gland, as we all know. It occurs in midline and it moves with deglutition because it is attached to the larynx. The other swellings which move with deglutition are thyroglossal cyst or subaortic bursitis, but also the lymph nodes which are attached to the prelaryngeal or pretracheal fascia. Having seen goiter, following things are important. One, its extent and how much it is extending, especially retrosternal. And therefore, it's important to identify the lower border or inferior border of thyroid, because absence to identify that means that the goiter may be significantly retrosternal. The retrosternal goiter can give rise to pressure effects, especially on trachea, and may give rise to difficulty in breathing, or a significant retrosternal goiter can give rise to obstructions of the vein which drain into the cardiac and therefore give rise to puffiness of face and sometimes even the cardiac symptoms. Having identified the size of the gland, the surface is usually smooth, but it can be nodular or maybe multinodular. Sometimes when I feel that it is a solitary nodule, often it may be associated with multiple nodules which may not be very easily palpable. The temperature and pain is also to be evaluated. Most of the time the thyroids are not warm and they are not painful, but if there is a suppuration or pyogenic parotitis which is rare, the gland can be painful and warm, and otherwise then we go to the structures beyond thyroid arc, and that is lymph nodes. It is very important to find out whether there are lymph nodes around which are enlarged, because significant cervical lymphadenitis may suggest malignancy in a thyroid. So at the end of examination of the thyroid, what we have done is found out the size of the gland, its surface, its nodularity, and whether it is producing any pressure effects on the surrounding structure. Then we also go to the systemic or the general constitutional symptoms and to find out whether it is associated with hypo or hyperthyroidism, for which hypothyroidism we know that it gives rise to lethargy, constipation, excess gain in weight, bradycardia, or in thyrotoxicosis the opposite, tachycardia, palpitation, tremors, sleeplessness. So we go to the symptoms that occur along with along with goiter. Age. Goiter can occur at any age, including newborns. And in newborns, it can be a congenital goiter, which may be as a result of drugs which are given to the mother. For example, the mother is being treated for thyrotoxicosis, or iodine is given to the mother for treatment of thyroid disease, or some of the goitrogens which are consumed by the mother. But important to remember two other causes, and one is the defect in the synthesis of the hormones of thyroid. These are genetically transmitted diseases, and that's an important cause of goitrous hypothyroidism. And rarely in non-endemic areas we may also have iodine deficiency. Since we are at the iodine deficiency and we feel that it is not a very common cause of in non-endemic areas, a point to be remembered is because of the tendency to have a rock salt or a pink salt which are devoid of iodine, we may come across some cases of iodine deficiency even in these areas, and therefore an urge is made here to have iodide salt only. The sex, as we know, is always more common in females. Age. As we saw, the age of goiter can be there at any time. We saw at the neonatal period. In smaller children, also the thyroid can be largely as a result of lymphocytic thyroiditis or the genetic synthetic defect which we just mentioned. But the importance of identifying the effects of goiter, apart from the pressure effects, it may be associated with hypothyroidism, which can give rise to delayed development and sometimes mental retardation in small children and growth failure in children which are above the age of 5 or 6 years. So remembering the age is important. At puberty and pregnancy, there can be goiter, which used to previously be called as puberty goiter, which was because of the increased demand during pregnancy and during puberty. And this particular goiter may subside after the increased demand is over. However, during this period of increased demand, we may have to assess whether there is a relative deficiency of thyroid gland during this period, and then if so, it needs to be supplemented, in which case the goiter may subside. Having done all this, we have now identified the thyroid, its size and the associated structures, pressure effects and the glands around that, and we have gone through the symptomatology, age, sex and other evaluation. It may be said that whatever the cause of goiter, may be uniform goiter, which is less likely to be due to malignancy, or nodular goiter. It's very important to evaluate the function of the gland biochemically and if necessary with the help of investigation to rule out A, thyrotoxicosis, B, hypothyroidism, and very important is malignancy of thyroid. So having done that, if I may summarize, I may say that goiter is common. It can be seen in all ages. Evaluation of goiter will also require the evaluation of pressure effects of the goiter, including retrosternal goiter, which can be urgent. Then second is iodine deficiency in non-endemic area can still occur, and therefore plead to have iodized salts and not go to rock salt or pink salt. Then after identifying hypo or hyperthyroidism, keeping malignancy at the back of our mind, because malignancy can occur at even a younger age of 30-35 also, and sudden increase in the size of the gland or other constitutional symptoms may indicate malignancy. I think this should be, in short, the evaluation of a goiter in a person. Thank you very much.